The explosion tore through the hull at exactly the wrong moment. 1 second, the westward dawn was gliding through contested space near the planet Virtus 7, and the next, alarms screamed through every corridor as the ship lurched sideways. Tommy Reeves clutched his mother's hand as they ran toward the escape pods, his other hand gripping the carrier that held Brutus, their honey badger. The 5-year-old boy stumbled as another blast shook the floor beneath them. "Keep moving, Tommy," Dr. Laura Reeves shouted over the chaos. Around them, other colonists scrambled in every direction. The westward dawn carried 300 souls seeking a new home on the far edge of Coalition space. Nobody expected to fly straight into a war zone between the Quillian hierarchy and the Metherin collective. 2 massive alien empires fighting over resources, and humans just happened to be in the wrong place at the worst possible time. Tommy's father, David Reeves, pushed them forward through the smoke. "Pod 7 is just ahead. We'll make it." But fate had other plans. A support beam crashed down between them, separating Tommy and his mother from David. Sparks flew everywhere. The heat was intense. "Go," David yelled through the flames and debris. "Get Tommy to the pod. I'll find another way." Laura hesitated for only a heartbeat before pulling Tommy away. They turned down a different corridor, following emergency lights that flickered and died. Other colonists rushed past them. Someone bumped into Tommy hard enough that he dropped Brutus's carrier. The latch broke. The honey badger scrambled out, his black and white fur bristling with fear and confusion. "Brutus!" Tommy cried, reaching for him. But another explosion rocked the ship. Tommy fell. His mother fell. When the boy looked up, he saw Brutus running back toward him, but Laura was being pulled away by the crowd of panicking colonists. "Tommy!" His mother screamed, fighting against the tide of people. "Tommy, stay there. I'm coming back." But the crowd was too strong. The ship was dying. People fought to survive. Tommy watched his mother disappear around a corner, swept away by desperate colonists heading for a different pod section. The boy sat on the cold floor, surrounded by smoke and flashing lights as Brutus climbed into his lap. The honey badger, usually energetic and curious, pressed against Tommy's chest. The boy wrapped his arms around the animal. "It's okay, Brutus," he whispered, even though he was terrified. "Mom will come back. She didn't come back." At least not before the final explosion sent Tommy tumbling through a breach in the hull. He fell into an escape pod that had partially deployed, its door hanging open. Brutus clung to him the entire fall. The pod's emergency systems activated automatically, sealing the door and launching into space. Through the small window, Tommy watched the westward dawn break apart, pieces of the colony ship scattering across the dark sky like burning stars. The pod's descent was rough. It wasn't designed for a full atmospheric entry without proper guidance. But the basic systems did their job. Tommy held on to Brutus as they crashed through clouds and slammed into the surface of Virtus 7. Trees absorbed some of the impact. The pod bounced twice before coming to rest in a small clearing surrounded by purple vegetation that looked nothing like earth plants. When the door finally opened, Tommy crawled out on shaky legs. Brutus jumped down beside him, immediately sniffing the strange ground. The air smelled like copper and flowers. 2 suns hung in the sky, one orange and one yellow, casting weird shadows across the landscape. Tommy had never felt so alone. "Mom?" he called out softly. "Dad?" Only silence answered. Well, not complete silence. Strange bird-like creatures made clicking sounds in the trees. Something howled in the distance. Tommy sat down next to the ruined pod and started to cry. Brutus climbed into his lap again, making a low, chittering sound that meant he was worried. Hours passed. Tommy fell asleep against the pod, exhausted from fear and shock. Brutus stayed awake, pacing in circles around the boy. The honey badger's instincts told him something was wrong with this place. The smells were all wrong. The sounds were dangerous. His human was vulnerable. When Tommy woke up, the 2 suns had moved lower in the sky. He was hungry and thirsty, but afraid to move far from the pod. Maybe someone would find them here. Maybe his parents were looking for him right now. He had to believe that. Then he heard the sounds. Heavy footsteps, mechanical whirring, voices speaking in languages Tommy had never heard before. The boy stood up, his heart racing. Brutus tensed, his body going rigid. Through the purple trees came 5 figures that definitely weren't human. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with 4 arms each and skin that shimmered like oil on water. Their faces had too many eyes, arranged in a pattern that hurt to look at. They wore armor that hummed with energy, and carried weapons that glowed with pale blue light. These were Quillians, though Tommy didn't know that. He only knew they were aliens and they were walking straight toward him. High Commander Jath led the patrol. He stopped when his scanner identified the small human life form. His translator processed the boy's species designation. A human child, he said to his soldiers. Alone, this is fortunate. We can use it as leverage against the Methran forces in this sector. One of the soldiers stepped forward, reaching toward Tommy with an armored hand. Come with us, small human. You are now under Quillian protection. Tommy backed up against the pod, shaking his head. Brutus moved between the boy and the approaching soldier. The honey badger was small, barely reaching the alien's knee, but he lowered his head and made a sound like ripping metal. It was a warning, a promise, a declaration that said if they wanted the child, they would have to go through him first. The Quillian soldier looked down at the animal and laughed. His scanner identified it as a terrestrial mammal. Weight approximately 12 kilograms, no venomous capabilities detected. A pet, the soldier said with amusement. Move aside, creature. He reached for Tommy again. Brutus exploded into motion. The honey badger launched himself at the soldier's reaching arm, teeth finding a gap in the armor where the joint met the forearm. The alien howled in pain as Brutus bit down with crushing force. His teeth were designed by nature to crack through turtle shells and dig through frozen ground. The armor might as well have been paper. The other soldiers raised their weapons, but their targeting systems flashed red. Juvenile life form detected. Safety protocols engaged. They couldn't fire without potentially harming the child. High Commander Jath watched in disbelief as one small earth animal fought his trained warrior. Remove it, Jath ordered. Use physical force. 2 more soldiers moved in. Brutus released the first soldier and turned to face them. He had no fear. Fear was not something honey badgers understood. Evolution had designed them to fight off lions, to survive cobra venom, to challenge any threat regardless of size. These aliens were just bigger predators, nothing more. Tommy watched as Brutus attacked the second soldier, claws raking across faceplates and teeth finding exposed joints. The honey badger moved like fury itself, impossible to grab, impossible to stop. When the third soldier tried to grab him from behind, Brutus twisted in midair and latched onto the alien's face. The soldier stumbled backward, screaming. High Commander Jath activated his communicator. This is Jath. Send reinforcements to my position. We have a situation. He stared at the small boy and the small animal, both refusing to surrender. Both standing their ground, Tommy knelt down and whispered, Good boy, Brutus. Good boy. The honey badger stood in front of him, blood on his muzzle, breathing hard but ready to fight again. Around them, the Quillian soldiers regrouped, calling for backup. Neither the boy nor the honey badger knew they had just started something that would echo across the entire galaxy. All Tommy knew was that Brutus was protecting him, just like always. All Brutus knew was that his human needed him. That was enough. 20 minutes after the first attack, 12 Quillian soldiers surrounded the clearing. They had formed a wide perimeter around Tommy and Brutus, weapons drawn but not firing. The safety protocols were absolute. No weapon could discharge while a juvenile life form was in the target zone. It was one of the sacred laws of the Galactic Coalition, and even enemies in war respected it. High Commander Jath studied the scene through his visor scanner. The small earth animal had injured 4 of his soldiers, 4 trained warriors, each with decades of combat experience taken down by something that weighed less than their armor. The medical team was treating them now. 2 had deep puncture wounds that required immediate attention. 1 had severe lacerations across his face. The 4th couldn't use his primary left arm because of damaged tendons. Explain this, Jath demanded of his science officer. How is this possible? The science officer's forearms worked rapidly across a data display. Commander, I have retrieved files on this species from the Galactic database. It is called a honey badger, native to Earth. The files were flagged by the initial survey team that visited Earth 30 cycles ago. He paused, his multiple eyes blinking in confusion. Sir, the survey team marked dozens of Earth creatures as extremely dangerous. They recommended caution if humans ever achieved space travel. I see no caution was necessary, Jath said dryly, watching Brutus pace back and forth in front of Tommy. It is one small animal. Commander, according to these files, honey badgers are known for fighting creatures 10 times their size. They have been documented attacking lions, buffalo, and even hippopotami. Their pain tolerance is exceptional. Their aggression level is classified as maximum. The survey team noted that humans somehow domesticated these creatures despite their dangerous nature. Jath processed this information. He had fought in 17 campaigns across 9 star systems. He had faced warrior species bred for combat. He had never retreated from any battle. But looking at this small boy and his small protector, he felt something unfamiliar. Not fear exactly, but a recognition that perhaps he had underestimated these humans. While the Quillians maintained their perimeter, something else was happening across Vertus 7 and beyond. 3 news drones from the Galactic Information Network had been monitoring the battle between Quillian and Methrin forces in this sector. When their sensors detected the unusual standoff, they moved in for a closer look. Their cameras were now broadcasting live footage to 17 billion viewers across Coalition space. On the core world of Bethera Prime, Professor Wenthus watched the feed with growing fascination. She was the Coalition's chief biologist, responsible for cataloging and understanding all discovered species. She had studied thousands of life forms in her long career, but this was something new. She watched the replay of Brutus's attack 3 times, analyzing every movement. Impossible, she muttered to herself. The creature should have retreated when faced with superior numbers. Every biological model says so. Self-preservation should have overridden protective instinct after the first injury. She pulled up Earth's biological survey files. What she read made her antennae quiver with shock. Earth was a death world, not in the traditional sense of hostile environments or extreme conditions. No, Earth was dangerous because of its inhabitants. The survey files listed creature after creature that defied normal evolutionary logic. Animals that fought despite injury. Predators that hunted in coordinated packs. Insects that would sacrifice themselves for the hive. And humans, somehow living alongside all of them. Professor Wenthus activated her communication array. This is Chief Biologist Wenthus. I am issuing an emergency classification update. Earth species designation is hereby elevated to Class 9 survival species. All Coalition members are advised to proceed with extreme caution regarding human first contact protocols. Back in the clearing, Tommy was trying to keep Brutus calm. The honey badger wanted to attack again. His instincts told him to eliminate all threats to his human. But Tommy held him close, whispering softly, "It's okay, boy. Stay with me. Just stay with me." Brutus settled slightly, but his eyes never left the soldiers. He would wait. He was patient when he needed to be. But if any of them came closer, he would fight again. He would always fight for Tommy. Then the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the forest. The Quillian soldiers shifted nervously. Their scanners picked up new signatures approaching fast. Methrin forces. The other major power in this conflict had arrived. Grath the Unyielding entered the clearing like a walking mountain. He stood 8 feet tall, his body covered in thick scales that looked like polished stone. He carried no weapons because he didn't need them. His strength was legendary. He had won 300 single combats without a single defeat. Other Methrin warriors followed behind him, but they kept their distance. This was their champion. High Commander Jath stepped forward. This human child is under Quillian custody. Leave now, Grath, or this becomes a diplomatic incident. Grath's deep voice rumbled like distant thunder. I see no custody. I see your soldiers afraid to approach one small creature. His eyes, which glowed a faint amber, fixed on Brutus. I see a warrior defending his charge. It is an animal, Jath insisted. Nothing more. Then why do your soldiers bleed? Grath moved closer to the perimeter. Brutus immediately focused on him, body tensing. Grath stopped. He had learned to read body language across 100 species. This small creature was warning him, telling him in the universal language of combat that death waited if he took another step. Grath had fought in ways that would terrify most beings. He had never backed down from any challenge, but he was also wise enough to recognize something important when he saw it. This honey badger would die protecting the child. There was no doubt in the creature's posture. No hesitation, no fear, only absolute commitment. I respect this, Grath said quietly. He sat down, his massive frame settling onto the ground. I will wait. Wait for what? Jath demanded. For someone this warrior trusts to arrive. The child's people will come. We wait until then. Unacceptable. The child is a strategic asset. Grath looked at Jath with something close to pity. The child is a child? Protected by courage, we do not deserve to interrupt. I will not move against them. If you do, you fight me as well. The Quillian soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Fighting Grath was suicide. even for trained units. Jath weighed his options and decided to wait for further orders. He moved back to his command position and activated his communicator to contact his superiors. Meanwhile, far across the planet's surface, another drama was unfolding. The westward dawn had scattered survivors across hundreds of square kilometers. Captain Olivia Reed had gathered 60 colonists at a secondary crash site. She was trying to account for everyone, checking names against the ship's manifest. When she reached the Reeves family, her heart sank. David Reeves was there, injured but alive. Laura Reeves was there, frantically trying to organize a search party. But Tommy Reeves was listed as missing, and according to the emergency pod tracking system, his pod had landed nearly 50 kilometers away in contested territory. "We have to go get him," Laura said, her voice breaking. "He's only 5 years old. He's out there alone." Captain Reed wanted to say yes immediately, but she had responsibilities to all the survivors. The area was crawling with alien military forces. They had limited supplies and no weapons beyond what they had grabbed during the evacuation. Going after one child could risk everyone. Dr. Neil Foster, the ship's chief biologist, spoke up. "Captain, there's something you should know. Tommy's family brought a honey badger with them. If that animal is still with the boy, he's not unprotected." A honey badger? Captain Reed had heard of them but never seen one. Against alien soldiers? Dr. Foster pulled up files on her damaged tablet. Honey badgers are pound for pound one of the most fearless animals on Earth. They have thick skin that resists bites and stings. They can fight for hours despite serious injuries, and they bond strongly with humans they consider family. If that honey badger sees Tommy as his family, he will defend him against anything. Laura grabbed the captain's arm. "Please, we have to try." Captain Reed looked at the desperate mother, then at the map showing Tommy's location. Every instinct said this was too dangerous, but she hadn't become a colony ship captain by always playing it safe. "We go," she decided. "Light and fast. Volunteers only. We leave in 10 minutes. 12 colonists volunteered immediately. David Reeves was among them despite his injuries. Captain Reed selected the 8 who were in the best physical condition. They gathered what supplies they could carry and started moving toward Tommy's position. They had no idea they were walking into a situation that was being broadcast across the galaxy. They didn't know that 2 alien military forces were currently in a standoff over one small boy. They only knew that a child needed help. Back in the clearing, Tommy was getting tired. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him exhausted and scared. He wanted his mom. He wanted his dad. He wanted to be home, back on Earth where things made sense. Brutus sensed his distress and pressed closer, offering what comfort he could. The 2 suns were setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that Tommy had never seen before. The alien soldiers maintained their positions. Grath sat motionless like a statue, and the news drones continued recording everything. Across Coalition space, billions watched. They saw a child and an animal surrounded by warriors. They saw courage that transcended species. They saw loyalty that couldn't be measured in tactical advantages or strategic value. And slowly, very slowly, they began to understand that humanity might be something the galaxy had never encountered before. The broadcast spread like wildfire across 17 star systems in less than 3 hours. On space stations in planetary capitals, aboard merchant vessels and military cruisers, beings from dozens of species stopped what they were doing to watch the standoff on Virtus 7. The image was simple, but powerful. One small human child, one small Earth creature, surrounded by armed forces that couldn't advance because of the sheer ferocity of the animal's devotion. Ambassador Voran sat in his office on Coalition Station 1, watching the feed for the 5th time. He was a Peltharian, a species known for their diplomatic skills and logical minds. He had negotiated treaties between bitter enemies. He had prevented 3 wars through careful words and patient reasoning. But nothing in his training prepared him for what he was seeing now. His assistant entered without knocking, something she never did unless it was urgent. "Ambassador, the Council is requesting your presence immediately. They want to discuss the human situation." Voran nodded slowly, still watching Tommy and Brutus on his screen. "Tell them I will be there in 5 minutes, and pull every file we have on Earth species, all of them." When he arrived at the council chamber, he found chaos. The 17 council members were arguing loudly, their voices overlapping in a dozen languages that the translator struggled to keep up with. At the center of the debate was the question nobody wanted to ask, but everyone was thinking, what kind of species could inspire such loyalty in other creatures? Council head Morella called for order. She was an ancient being, her species having achieved space travel when most others were still discovering fire. We must address this situation immediately. Ambassador Vorin, you have studied the Earth files. Explain what we are seeing. Vorin activated the central display. Images of Earth animals filled the chamber. What we are seeing is not unusual for Earth, he began. The planet has thousands of species that display similar traits. Let me show you. He pulled up files one by one. This is a dog. Humans domesticated them over 15,000 years ago. They are known to defend their human families to the death. This is a cat. Smaller, seemingly less dangerous, but documented cases show them fighting off bears to protect human children. This is a horse. They can kill with a single kick, yet humans ride them and they obey willingly. This is a dolphin. They have saved drowning humans from sharks. He paused, letting the images sink in. And this is a honey badger, the creature you are watching right now. It is one of the few Earth animals humans have not fully domesticated, yet this one is clearly bonded to the child. Council member Threx, a military strategist from a warrior culture, spoke up. These creatures fight for humans, without technology or programming. By choice? It is, Vorin confirmed. Earth is unique in the known galaxy. Not because of its resources or its strategic position, it is unique because its dominant species, humans, have formed genuine partnerships with hundreds of other species. They do not control these animals through force or genetic modification. They earn loyalty through trust and care. The chamber fell silent. This was a concept most species struggled to understand. Across the galaxy, beings either dominated other creatures or left them alone. The idea of mutual cooperation between different species was almost unheard of. Yet humans had built their entire civilization around it. On a merchant ship passing through nearby space, a crew of Thelian traders watched the broadcast with growing interest. Their captain, a shrewd being named Cordis, saw opportunity. If humans can bond with their own planet's creatures this strongly, he said to his first mate, imagine what they could teach us about animal husbandry, about agriculture, about any field that requires working with living beings. His first mate nodded slowly. The galaxy has been at war with nature for millennia. We build artificial environments. We create synthetic food. We avoid dealing with living animals whenever possible because they are unpredictable. But humans seem to thrive on that relationship. Exactly, Cordis said. Mark my words, if humans join the coalition, they will revolutionize a dozen industries. Not through technology, but through understanding. Back on Verdus 7, the situation was becoming more complex. More Quillian forces had arrived, and more Methran warriors had joined Grath. The two sides maintained their distance from each other and from Tommy. But tensions were rising. Neither side wanted to appear weak by withdrawing. High Commander Jath received new orders from his superiors. They wanted the human child brought to Quillian space for study. They wanted to understand how humans achieved such loyalty from other species. Jath knew this meant he had to act soon. But every time he looked at Brutus, he hesitated. The honey badger had not relaxed for a single moment. The creature stood ready, eyes tracking every movement, body coiled like a weapon that could deploy instantly. Grath noticed Jath's hesitation. You are afraid, the Methran warrior observed. I fear nothing, Jath snapped back. Then you are a fool, Grath replied calmly. That small creature has already proven it can hurt your soldiers. It has shown no sign of fatigue, no sign of retreat. If you order an attack, some of your warriors will die. Perhaps you will succeed in capturing the child, but at what cost? And what will the galaxy think when they see you sacrificed your own people to take one frightened boy from his protector? Jath had no answer. The cameras were still recording. The whole galaxy was watching. Every decision he made now would be judged by billions. He needed something to change the situation in his favor. The change came from an unexpected direction. Captain Reed's rescue team had been moving through the forest for hours, navigating carefully around patrol routes and sensor grids. Dr. Neil Foster was with them, along with David and Laura Reeves. They also brought reinforcements of a different kind. 3 colonists had military working dogs with them. Another colonist had a service animal, a large golden retriever named Ranger. And one young woman had brought her therapy cat, a small gray animal named Duchess that rode in her backpack. Dr. Foster had insisted on bringing the animals. If we're walking into a situation where Brutus is defending Tommy, we need other animals that Tommy knows and trusts. They might help calm the situation. When they were half a kilometer from Tommy's position, the dogs suddenly alerted. Their ears perked up. Their bodies went tense. They had detected something ahead. Captain Reed signaled everyone to stop and stay quiet. Through her binoculars, she could see the clearing. She could see the alien soldiers. She could see Tommy sitting on the ground with Brutus standing guard. Her heart broke at the sight. The boy looked so small and alone, but she also felt a surge of pride. Tommy was holding himself together, and Brutus was doing his job perfectly. "We need a plan," she whispered to her team. "We can't just charge in there." David Reeves wanted to charge in anyway. That was his son. But Laura held his arm. "Wait," she said. "Look at the soldiers. They're not attacking. They're just watching. Something is keeping them back." Dr. Foster understood. "Brutus, they tried to take Tommy and Brutus stopped them. Now they're afraid to try again." "Good boy," David said quietly. "Good boy, Brutus." Captain Reed studied the situation. Two groups of aliens. Different armor, different weapons. That meant two different factions. Both were maintaining distance from Tommy. That was useful. It meant they were following some kind of rules about not harming children. Good. She could work with that. She activated her communicator, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Captain Olivia Reed of the colony ship Westward Dawn. I am here to retrieve our child. We mean no harm to anyone. We just want to take our people home." In the clearing, both Jath and Grath received the transmission. The Quillian commander responded first. "You are not authorized to be in this sector, human. The child is in our custody." "He is in nobody's custody," Captain Reed replied. "He is protected by his family's companion animal, and you have not been able to get past that protection. I am his commanding officer. I am responsible for his safety. I am coming to get him. If you approach, we will consider it a hostile act," Jath warned. Grath spoke up, his voice carrying across the open channel. "Let them come, Jath, or are you afraid of these humans too?" Before Jath could respond, Captain Reed and her team emerged from the tree line. They walked slowly, hands visible, weapons holstered. The dogs walked beside their handlers, alert but calm. Ranger the retriever walked next to Laura. Duchess the cat peeked out from the backpack, her green eyes taking in everything. Tommy saw them and started to cry with relief. "Mom," he called out. "Mom, Dad." Laura wanted to run to him, but Captain Reed held her back. "Slow," the captain warned.
"Let Brutus see us."
"Let him recognize us." They approached the perimeter carefully. The alien soldiers raised their weapons but didn't fire. The dogs growled softly at the aliens but stayed under control. And Brutus, still standing guard over Tommy, watched them come closer. Then Brutus did something that made the entire galaxy watching the broadcast understand what they were really seeing. The honey badger recognized Laura and David. He recognized Ranger and the other animals. He didn't relax his guard completely, but he allowed them to approach. He trusted them. Dr. Foster spoke softly into her communicator, knowing the broadcast was picking up her words. "This is the difference," she said. "This is what makes humans unique. We do not control these animals. We earn their trust. We form bonds that last lifetimes. That honey badger has been with Tommy's family since he was a kid. He knows them. He trusts them. And he will defend them with his life." Laura knelt down next to Tommy and wrapped her arms around him. David joined them, the family reuniting. Brutus stayed between them and the aliens, still ready to fight if needed. But his body language had shifted slightly. His family was here now. He wasn't alone in the defense anymore. Captain Reed turned to face High Commander Jath and Grath. "We are taking our child now. We are leaving this planet. We want no conflict with either of your peoples. We were just colonists seeking a new home. We got caught in your war by accident." "This is not over," Jath said. "The Coalition Council will want to speak with your people. Questions will be asked. Then they can ask," Captain Reed replied. "But they will ask while our children are safe." She turned to her team. "Everyone form up. We're moving out." The humans began to withdraw. Tommy held in his father's arms, Brutus walking beside them, the dogs flanking them protectively. Even little Duchess the cat seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, staying quiet and alert in her backpack. The alien soldiers watched them go. Nobody fired. Nobody tried to stop them. And the galaxy watched as humanity demonstrated not superior technology or overwhelming force, but something far more powerful. They showed the unbreakable bond between their species and the creatures of Earth. They showed loyalty. They showed trust. They showed courage that came not from weapons but from the heart. As the humans disappeared into the forest, Grath stood up from his sitting position. He looked at Jath. "Tell your superiors that the Methrin Collective wishes to open diplomatic relations with humanity. These are beings worth knowing." Jath said nothing. He simply watched the forest where the humans had vanished and wondered what his commanders would say when they learned he had let them go. 3 months had passed since the standoff that changed everything. The survivors of the Westward Dawn had established a temporary settlement on Virtus 7, occupying a neutral zone negotiated by the Coalition. The fighting between Quillian and Methrin forces had ceased in this sector, replaced by an uncomfortable truce centered around the human presence. Nobody wanted to be the faction that harmed the beings who had captured the galaxy's imagination. Tommy played in the dirt outside his family's prefab shelter, building small towers with rocks while Brutus dozed in a patch of sunlight nearby. The honey badger's battle wounds had healed, leaving small scars hidden beneath his fur. He looked peaceful now, but Laura never forgot how he had looked that day in the clearing. She never forgot that her son was alive because of an animal that most people on Earth considered dangerous. Things moved slowly in the Coalition government, but when they moved with the weight of bureaucracy from 100 worlds. Ambassador Vareen had arrived 2 weeks ago with a team of officials, scientists, and cultural observers. They set up camp at the edge of the human settlement and began what they called the evaluation process. Captain Reed sat across from Vorin in what passed for a meeting hall. It was really just a large tent with tables and chairs, but it served its purpose. The ambassador had brought tea from his home world, a gesture of hospitality that Reed appreciated, even though the liquid tasted like flowers mixed with metal. "You understand what we are asking of you," Vorin said carefully. "To join the Galactic Coalition is not a simple matter. We must evaluate your species across 17 different criteria: technology, culture, ethics, adaptability, potential contributions to the galactic community, and our relationship with animals," Reed added. "That's really what this is about, isn't it?" Vorin's face, which had multiple small features that moved independently, arranged itself into what Reed had learned was his expression for discomfort. "It is a significant factor," he admitted. "In 3,000 years of Coalition history, we have never encountered a species like yours. You have not just domesticated animals. You have formed partnerships with them. Friendships, even. This is unprecedented. Is it a problem?" "It is a question mark," Vorin replied. "Some council members are fascinated. They see potential for revolutionary advances in agriculture, environmental management, scientific research. Others are frightened. They worry about humans weaponizing Earth creatures. They remember the honey badger fighting trained soldiers." Reed leaned forward. "Brutus wasn't a weapon. He was a terrified animal protecting a child he loved. That's all. We don't train our companion animals to fight. We train them to be part of our families. Then why do you have military working dogs?" It was a fair question. Reed had expected it. "We have working animals, yes. Dogs that help soldiers detect dangers. Horses that can traverse terrain vehicles cannot. But they are partners, not weapons. A military dog handler will tell you their dog is their best friend first and a tool second. The bond comes first. Always." Over the next weeks, the Coalition team conducted their tests. They interviewed colonists. They observed human behavior. They studied the animals the survivors had brought with them. Besides Brutus, there were 23 dogs of various breeds, 7 cats, 2 horses, a parrot that belonged to one of the engineers, and even a small tank of fish that someone had miraculously kept alive through the crash. Professor Wenthus arrived personally to study the animals. She was particularly interested in the dogs. She watched them work with their humans, following commands but also making independent decisions. She saw search and rescue dogs locate survivors from other crash sites without being told where to look. She saw therapy dogs providing comfort to traumatized colonists, seeming to understand who needed attention most. "This is remarkable," she said to Dr. Foster during one observation session. They were watching Ranger, the golden retriever, work with a group of children who had lost parents in the crash. The dog moved between them, letting each child pet him, seeming to sense which ones needed him to stay longer. Ranger is a therapy animal, Dr. Foster explained. He's trained to provide emotional support. But the training only enhances what comes naturally. Dogs are empathetic. They read human emotions better than most humans do. How is this possible? Wenthus asked. We have tried for centuries to create artificial intelligence that can read emotions. We have failed repeatedly, yet this creature does it instinctively. 15,000 years of evolution alongside humans, Dr. Foster said. Dogs didn't just get domesticated. They became partners in our survival. They learned to understand us because their survival depended on it, and we learned to understand them for the same reason. Wenthus made detailed notes. Every observation seemed to raise more questions than it answered. How did horses trust humans enough to let them ride? How did cats, independent and predatory by nature, choose to live with humans? How did parrots learn to mimic human speech so perfectly? The more the coalition team learned, the more they realized that Earth was not just another planet with intelligent life. It was a world where intelligence had taken multiple forms, where different species had found ways to cooperate instead of competing to extinction. Then came the day that changed everything again. The Coalition Council transmitted a formal request. They wanted to establish stricter guidelines for which Earth animals humans could bring to space. The proposal listed restrictions. No animals over 50 kilograms, no animals classified as dangerous, no animals that could not be fully controlled in emergency situations. Captain Reed read the proposal and felt her blood run cold. The restrictions would ban most dogs. They would ban horses. They would certainly ban honey badgers. The council wanted humans to join the galactic community, but only if they left behind the partnerships that made them who they were. She called a meeting with all the adult colonists. They gathered in the evening under the strange double sunset of Vertus 7. Reed explained the situation. The room erupted in angry voices. They want us to give up our animals? David Reeves stood up, his face red with anger. Brutus saved my son's life. I will not abandon him. They cannot ask this of us, another colonist shouted. Our dogs are family. Captain Reed let them vent for several minutes before calling for quiet. I know, she said. I know what they're asking is wrong. But we need to be smart about how we respond. We are 300 people. The coalition has trillions. We cannot simply say no and expect them to back down. Then what do we do? Laura asked. Reed looked around the room at the angry, frightened faces. These were farmers, engineers, teachers, scientists. They were not warriors or politicians. They were ordinary people who had wanted a new life among the stars. But they were also people who understood loyalty, who understood that family was not defined by species. We tell them the truth, Reed said. We tell them that if they want humanity in the coalition, they take all of us, including our four-legged family members. And we show them why this matters. The next day, Captain Reed requested a formal meeting with the entire coalition evaluation team. She brought Tommy with her. She brought Brutus. She brought representatives from the colonists and their animals. Ranger the therapy dog came. 2 military working dogs came. One of the cats, a large orange animal named Leo, came in his owner's arms. Even the parrot, a bright green bird named Echo, perched on the shoulder of his human ambassador Vorin and Professor Wenthus, sat with their team, waiting to hear the human response to the proposal. Reed stood before them with her people behind her. You asked us to limit which of our animals we bring to space, Reed began. You called them dangerous. You called them unpredictable. You want guarantees of control. I understand your concerns, but I need you to understand something first. These animals are not property. They are not tools. They are not pets in the way you might keep a decorative fish or a caged bird. She gestured to Brutus. This honey badger risked his life to protect a child. He did not do it because he was trained to. He did it because he loves that child. He is part of that family. She gestured to Ranger. This dog provides therapy to traumatized people. He senses their pain and offers comfort. He does this not for reward or conditioning, but because it is his nature to care. She gestured to the military working dogs. These dogs save lives by detecting dangers before humans can. They work alongside soldiers not as tools but as partners. Their handlers trust them with their lives. Reed's voice grew stronger. You are asking us to choose between joining your coalition and keeping our families intact. That is not a choice we will make. If humanity joins the galaxy, we bring our animals with us. All of them. Because they are part of who we are. They made us who we are. Professor Wenthus raised one of her appendages. But how can we trust that these animals will not pose a danger to other species? The honey badger attacked soldiers. The honey badger defended a child from armed warriors who were trying to take him, Reed corrected. Context matters. Brutus has never attacked anyone who approached peacefully. He has never harmed anyone in this settlement. He only fought because he saw a threat. That's not dangerous. That's loyal, Vorin spoke up. Captain Reed, we appreciate your passion. But the Council will not approve human membership if they believe your animals cannot be managed safely. Reed nodded. She had expected this. Then let me propose an alternative. We will establish protocols, registration for all companion animals, training certification, behavioral assessment. We will take responsibility for any problems that occur, but we will not abandon them. We will not leave them behind. They come with us or we do not come at all. The room fell silent. The coalition team looked at each other. This was not how evaluations usually went. Most species were eager to join, willing to adapt to any requirements, but humans were drawing a line in the sand. Tommy, who had been sitting quietly, spoke up in his small voice. Brutus is my friend. He protected me. I won't leave him. The simple statement from a child carried more weight than any diplomatic argument could have. Vorin looked at the boy, then at the honey badger sitting calmly beside him, then at all the other animals scattered around the room, all of them peaceful in the presence of their humans, all of them showing the bonds that the galaxy found so hard to understand. I will relay your position to the Council, Vorin said finally. I make no promises about their decision. That's all we ask, Reed replied. A fair hearing. As the meeting ended, Grath entered the tent. He had been on Virtus 7 for the past month, officially as a military observer, but really because he wanted to understand humans better. He had watched the entire exchange. Captain Reed, he said in his deep voice, the Methrin Collective supports your position. We will argue in the Council that humanity should not be forced to abandon their companions. What we saw in that clearing was not dangerous. It was honorable, Reed smiled. Thank you, Grath, that means a great deal. The Methrin warrior knelt down to Tommy's level. Young one, your friend is mighty. He has the heart of a warrior 10 times his size. Tommy smiled and hugged Brutus. He's the best. As everyone filed out, Dr. Foster stayed behind with Professor Wenthus. The two scientists had developed a mutual respect over the weeks. You will fight for your animals, Wenthus said. It was not a question. We will, Dr. Foster confirmed. Because without them, we are less than we could be. They make us better. They teach us about loyalty, about love, about courage. Losing them would be like cutting off part of our soul. Wenthus made a soft sound that might have been the Peltharian equivalent of a sigh. You may face strong opposition. Many in the Council fear what they do not understand. Then we will help them understand, Dr. Foster said. We have time. We're patient, and we're not going anywhere. The Coalition Council chamber on Bethera Prime was built to intimidate. Massive columns stretched up to a ceiling so high it disappeared into artificial clouds. The 17 council seats formed a semicircle around a central platform, where species being evaluated stood to present their case. Captain Reed stood there now, looking up at faces from across the galaxy, feeling very small and very alone. She was not actually alone. Behind her stood 20 representatives from the Westward Dawn survivors. Dr. Foster was there, along with Dr. Laura Reeves, David Reeves, and a dozen others. Tommy had wanted to come, but they convinced him to stay on Virtus 7. This was not a place for children, but they brought someone else. Standing beside Captain Reed, calm and alert, was Brutus. The honey badger wore no collar or leash. He simply stood near Reed because that was where he chose to be. The council members stared at him with varying expressions of curiosity, concern, and in some cases barely hidden fear. They had all seen the footage. They all knew what this small creature could do. Council Head Morella began the proceedings. Humanity has applied for membership in the Galactic Coalition. We have completed our evaluation across 16 of the 17 criteria. Your technology is adequate. Your culture is rich and diverse. Your ethics meet our standards. However, there remains one issue that has divided this council. Your relationship with non-sentient creatures. Captain Reed had prepared for this moment. She had spent weeks working on her speech, consulting with every expert among the survivors. But now, standing here, she threw away her prepared remarks and spoke from the heart. Honorable Council members, I am not a diplomat. I am not a politician. I am a colony ship captain. My job was to take 300 people seeking a better life and deliver them safely to a new world. I failed. Our ship was destroyed. We crashed on a contested planet during a war. Many of my people died. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle. But some of us survived. And we survived because we had help. Not from advanced technology. Not from weapons. We survived because we had companions who refused to give up on us. Search and rescue dogs found survivors buried in wreckage. Therapy animals kept traumatized children from losing hope. And one honey badger defended a 5-year-old boy against armed soldiers because that is what family does. Council member Threx, the military strategist, leaned forward. You keep using that word, family, but these are animals. They are not sentient. They cannot reason or communicate complex ideas. Dr. Foster stepped forward. May I address that, Captain? Reed nodded. Dr. Foster moved to the center platform. Council member Threx, you are correct that our companion animals are not sentient in the way we define it. They do not build civilizations or create art or contemplate philosophy, but they are intelligent. They communicate. They feel emotion. They form relationships. And yes, they can reason. She activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above them. This is a border collie herding sheep. Watch how the dog anticipates where the sheep will move. She plans her approach. She adjusts her strategy based on the sheep's behavior. That is reasoning. Another image appeared. This is a dolphin teaching her calf to hunt. She demonstrates technique. She corrects the calf's mistakes. She rewards success. That is education. More images followed. This is a crow using tools to get food. This is an elephant mourning a dead companion. This is an octopus solving a puzzle. Earth is not unique in having intelligent animals. But Earth is unique because humanity recognized that intelligence and built relationships with it. Professor Wenthus spoke up from her position as the coalition's chief biologist. Dr. Foster is correct. My research over the past months has convinced me that human-animal bonds are not simply training or conditioning. They are genuine relationships built on mutual benefit and emotional connection. This is something the galaxy has never seen before. Council member Prell, representing a species that valued logic above all else, raised an objection. This is all very touching, but it does not address our concerns. These animals can be dangerous. The honey badger proved that. How can we allow humans to bring such creatures into coalition space, where they might harm other species? David Reeves stepped forward without being invited. Captain Reed tried to stop him, but he was already speaking. My son is alive because of Brutus. When armed soldiers tried to take him, Brutus stood between them and my boy. He fought because he loves Tommy. Not because he was ordered to. Not because he expected a reward. Because that is what love does. It protects, his voice cracked with emotion. You want guarantees that our animals will never hurt anyone. I cannot give you that guarantee. Can you guarantee that no member of your species will ever commit a crime? That no one will ever act in anger or fear? Animals are individuals just like we are. Most of them are gentle and kind. Some are fierce protectors. A few might be dangerous. But so are people. We do not ban entire species because of what individuals might do. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members nodded in agreement. Others argued loudly. Captain Reed let them talk for several minutes before speaking again. Honorable Council, we are not asking for special treatment. We are simply asking that you accept us as we are, humanity and our animal companions together. We will take responsibility. We will establish guidelines. We will train and educate, but we will not abandon them. That is our line. Morella called for order. The council will deliberate on this matter. You will be informed of our decision. The humans were escorted from the chamber. They returned to their temporary quarters in the diplomatic section of Bethera Prime. The waiting was terrible. Hours passed. Then a full day. Then 2 days. Reed tried to stay busy, but her mind kept returning to the council chamber. What were they saying? What were they deciding? On the 3rd day, Ambassador Vorin came to visit. He looked tired, his usually composed features showing strain. The debate has been intense, he said. I have never seen the council so divided. Half want to welcome humanity with open arms. They see the potential. They are excited about what your species could contribute. The other half want to reject your application entirely. They fear the unknown.
They fear change. What do you think will happen?
Reed asked. I honestly do not know, but I want you to be prepared for the possibility that the answer might be no. That night, Reed could not sleep. She sat outside their quarters looking up at the alien stars. Brutus sat beside her, having followed her from Tommy's room where he usually slept. The honey badger seemed to sense her distress. He made a soft chittering sound and pressed against her leg. Good boy, Reed whispered, scratching behind his ears. You started all this, you know. If you had just let those soldiers take Tommy, we would not be in this mess. She smiled sadly, but then Tommy would have been taken, and that was never going to happen while you were there. The next morning they received word. The council had reached a decision. All human representatives were summoned back to the chamber. Reed gathered her people. They walked through the grand corridors of Coalition Station 1 in silence. Each person was lost in their own thoughts about what the decision might mean. When they entered the chamber, the atmosphere was different. More formal, more final. The 17 council members sat in their seats, and for once none of them were arguing. They had made their choice. Morella spoke. Humanity, you have presented us with a dilemma unlike any in Coalition history. You have asked us to accept something we do not fully understand. You have asked us to trust in bonds we cannot measure. You have challenged our assumptions about what it means to be part of this community. Reed's heart was pounding. She could not read the council head's expression. After extensive debate, the council has voted. Morella continued. The vote was 9 in favor, 7 against, and 1 abstention. By the rules of our charter, this constitutes approval. Humanity is hereby granted provisional membership in the Galactic Coalition. Reed felt her knees go weak with relief. Around her, the other humans were hugging, some crying with joy. But Morella was not finished. However, this membership comes with conditions. You will establish the Earth Animal Registration Protocol. All animals brought into Coalition space must be registered. Their behavior must be monitored. Handlers must be certified. You will take full responsibility for any incidents involving your animals. We accept, Reed said immediately. We will do everything you ask. Furthermore, Morella continued, Earth is hereby designated as a protected world. No other species may colonize or exploit Earth's resources without human permission. This is to preserve the unique ecosystem that created your remarkable animal diversity. This was unexpected. Reed had not even thought to ask for such protection. It was an incredible gift. Thank you, she said. We are honored. Do not thank us yet, Council Member Threx said. You have gained membership, but you have also gained responsibility. The galaxy will be watching to see if your bonds with these animals are truly as special as you claim. Fail to prove it, and your membership will be revoked. We understand, Reed replied. We will not fail. There is one more thing, Professor Wenthus said. The Council has approved the creation of the Human-Animal Cooperation Research Institute. It will be a joint facility where Coalition scientists can study and learn from the relationships between humans and Earth creatures. We hope that what you teach us might revolutionize how we think about intelligence and partnership. Dr. Foster stepped forward. We would be happy to participate in such research. We have much to learn from each other. The formal proceedings ended. The humans were free to go. As they left the chamber, Grath was waiting outside. The massive Methrin warrior had watched the entire proceeding from the observation gallery. Congratulations, he said to Captain Reed. You fought well in there. With words instead of weapons, but you fought well. Thank you, Grath. Your support helped make this happen. I spoke truth, Grath replied. What I saw in that clearing was worth preserving. The galaxy needs more loyalty like that, not less. He looked down at Brutus. Small warrior, you have changed the galaxy. I hope you know that. Brutus tilted his head, looking up at the giant alien. Then he did something unexpected. He stood up on his hind legs and placed his front paws on Grath's armored leg. It was a gesture of acknowledgement, of respect. Grath's amber eyes glowed brighter. Perhaps, he said softly, I could learn from your humans too, about making friends with those different from myself. Back on Virtus 7, the news spread quickly through the human settlement. They had done it. They had won membership in the Galactic Coalition without giving up their animals. Tommy heard the news and ran to find his parents, Brutus racing beside him as always. We can stay together? Tommy asked, hugging the honey badger. Brutus can come with us? Laura knelt down and hugged both her son and the animal who had saved him. Yes, sweetheart. Brutus can come with us. He is family. He will always be family. That night, the settlement celebrated. It was not a loud or elaborate party. Resources were still limited. But people gathered, shared food, told stories, and for the first time in months felt hopeful about the future. The dogs played with the children. The cats prowled the edges of the gathering. The horses grazed peacefully nearby. And Brutus, the honey badger who had started it all, dozed in Tommy's lap while the boy talked excitedly about seeing new worlds. Captain Reed watched her people and felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had lost their ship. They had lost friends and family members. But they had gained something too. They had shown the galaxy that strength came in many forms. That loyalty was not weakness. That family was not defined by species or blood, but by the bonds we choose to honor. Tomorrow they would begin planning their journey to wherever humanity decided to build its new home. Tomorrow they would start implementing the registration protocols and certification programs they had promised. Tomorrow they would begin teaching the galaxy about the partnerships that had defined human civilization. But tonight they simply celebrated being together, humans and animals, family, exactly as it should be. 6 months after gaining coalition membership, the human settlement on Vertus 7 had transformed into something more permanent. The temporary shelters had been replaced with proper buildings. Trade agreements with multiple alien species brought resources and technology. The Westward Dawn survivors were no longer refugees. They were citizens of the galaxy. But the galaxy was about to discover that citizenship came with responsibilities. The distress signal arrived at 300 hours local time. Captain Reed was woken by urgent knocking on her door. Lieutenant Harris, one of the former crew members who now served as security chief, stood there with a datapad. Captain, we have a situation. Coalition Research Station Omega-9 is under attack. The Skrell have broken through their defenses. They are calling for immediate assistance. Reed took the pad and read quickly. The Skrell were an insectoid species that had refused coalition membership. They operated on hive mind principles and saw other species as either resources or obstacles. They had been quiet for years, but apparently that had changed. The research station had valuable data on terraforming techniques. The Skrell wanted it. Where is the nearest coalition military force? Reed asked. 3 days away at best speed, Harris replied. We could reach them in 18 hours. Reed did the math. The station had maybe 24 hours before the Skrell overwhelmed them completely. Coalition forces would arrive too late, but the humans could get there in time. Maybe if they left immediately, if they risked everything for people they had never met. Wake the council, Reed said. Full emergency session. 15 minutes. The council was a group of 12 colonists who had been elected to help make major decisions. They gathered quickly, most still in their sleep clothes, all looking worried. Reed explained the situation. Then she waited for the debate to begin. It started immediately. Some council members argued they had no obligation to risk their lives for a coalition station. They had just been accepted as members. They had no military force. They had limited weapons. Sending their people to fight the Skrell was suicide. Others argued the opposite. If they wanted respect in the coalition, if they wanted to prove humanity deserved their place among the stars, they had to act when action was needed. This was their chance to show what humans could contribute. David Reeves spoke up. How many people are on that station? 47, Reed answered. Scientists and support staff from 6 different species, including Quillians, someone asked. Yes, 3 Quillian researchers are confirmed to be there. The room fell silent. Some of the colonists still resented the Quillians for what happened during the crash. High Commander Jath and his soldiers had tried to take Tommy. They had threatened the survivors. Forgiveness did not come easily, but Laura Reeves stood up. My son is alive because someone stood up to protect him. Brutus did not ask if the threat was fair or if the danger was justified. He just protected. If we have a chance to save lives, we have to try. That is what it means to be family. And the coalition is our family now, whether we like all the members or not. The vote was close, 7 in favor of sending help, 5 against. Reed had the authority to make the final call, and she knew what her answer had to be. We go, volunteers only. We leave in 1 hour. 32 colonists volunteered immediately. Most were former crew members with training in emergency response, but others came too. Dr. Foster volunteered because medical support would be needed. David and Laura Reeves both volunteered, despite having Tommy to think about. When Reed tried to convince them to stay, Laura said simply, "Our son needs to grow up in a galaxy where people help each other. We have to show him that." Then something unexpected happened. They brought the animals. Not as an afterthought or for comfort, but as deliberate choices. Lieutenant Harris brought his military working dog, a German shepherd named Atlas. Another volunteer brought 2 more working dogs trained in search and rescue. Someone brought 3 horses, arguing that the station might have terrain where the animals could help, and Tommy insisted that Brutus had to go. "No," Reed said firmly. "Absolutely not. This is a combat situation. We cannot bring a child's pet into danger." "Brutus is not a pet," Tommy said with the absolute certainty only a 6-year-old could manage. "He is a protector. He protected me. He can protect others." David started to support Reed's refusal, but Dr. Foster interrupted. "Captain, think about this carefully. The Skrell are insectoid. They have exoskeletons and operate in hive structures. They tunnel underground. What animal on Earth is best suited to fighting in tunnels against creatures with hard shells?" Reed understood immediately. Honey badgers hunted in burrows. They fought creatures with natural armor. They were built for exactly this kind of environment. "You cannot be serious." "I am completely serious," Dr. Foster said. "If the Skrell have established tunnel systems, and they always do, then Brutus might be one of our most valuable assets. He is still a child's companion animal. We cannot send him into battle." Tommy walked up to Reed and looked her straight in the eye. "Brutus chooses. Ask him. It was ridiculous. You could not ask an animal to volunteer for a dangerous mission." Except that when David Reeves knelt down and looked at Brutus, the honey badger seemed to understand something was happening. David spoke softly. "We need help, boy. People are in danger. Will you come with us?" Brutus chittered and moved toward the door where the volunteers were gathering. Tommy smiled through his tears. "See? He wants to help." Reed gave up arguing. If they were going to do this impossible thing, they might as well do it with all the advantages they could get. Even advantages covered in fur and weighing 12 kilograms. The rescue team loaded into 3 shuttles. They were not military vessels, just transport craft with basic shields. The colonists had managed to acquire some energy weapons through trade, but most carried simple ballistic firearms from Earth. The dogs wore protective vests. The horses were loaded into cargo sections with their handlers. Brutus rode with Tommy, who had absolutely refused to be left behind despite everyone's arguments. Captain Reed let the boy come. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe she would regret it. But something told her that this mission needed the bond between Tommy and Brutus. Needed the reminder of why they were doing this. The journey to Research Station Omega-9 took 16 hours. Reed used that time to plan their approach. The station was built into an asteroid with multiple levels extending deep into the rock. The Skrell had attacked from below, tunneling through the asteroid's interior. The station's defenders had sealed themselves into the upper levels, but they were running out of time. When the human shuttles arrived, they immediately came under fire. Skrell vessels swarmed around the asteroid, small and fast and numerous. The shuttle pilots did their best to evade, but took several hits. Shields held barely. They landed on the asteroid's surface near one of the emergency airlocks. "Everyone out," Reed ordered. "Dogs first. Let them scan for danger." Atlas and the other working dogs exited the shuttles and immediately began searching. Their enhanced senses picked up chemical signatures that human scanners missed. Atlas alerted on a section of ground that looked stable, but apparently had a Skrell tunnel underneath. The humans avoided it and moved to a safer landing zone. They made contact with the station's survivors through emergency communications. The lead researcher, a Peltharian named Dr. Korth, was desperately grateful. "Thank you for coming. We did not expect anyone to arrive so quickly. The Skrell are 2 levels below us. They are preparing a final assault. We need a way inside," Reed said, "and we need to know the station's layout." Dr. Korth transmitted blueprints. Reed studied them quickly. The station had 3 main levels connected by vertical shafts. The Skrell controlled the bottom level completely and were pushing into the 2nd level. The survivors were trapped on the top level with limited supplies and no weapons. Lieutenant Harris pointed to the blueprints. "If we can create a distraction on the lower level, draw the Skrell forces away from the survivors, they might be able to evacuate through the emergency tunnels here." How do we create that distraction? Someone asked. Dr. Foster spoke up. We go into their tunnels. We make them think they are being attacked from behind. Everyone looked at her like she had lost her mind. Going into Skrell tunnels was suicide. The insects controlled that environment completely. But Dr. Foster continued. The Skrell are a hive mind species. They share information instantly. If we attack their tunnels, every Skrell in the station will know about it. Some will be redirected to defend. That gives the survivors time to escape. It is still suicide, Harris said. Not if we have the right tools. Dr. Foster looked at Brutus. The honey badger was sitting calmly next to Tommy, watching everything with his dark eyes. And the right companions. The plan came together quickly. The horses would stay on the surface with a small team, ready to help evacuate survivors. The main human force would enter the station through an auxiliary airlock and fight their way to the survivors. And a small strike team would enter the Skrell tunnels to create chaos and confusion. David Reeves volunteered for the tunnel team. So did Dr. Foster. So did 2 colonists with mining experience. And they would take Brutus along with Atlas the German shepherd who had training in tight spaces. Tommy clung to Brutus, crying, Be careful. Come back to me. Laura held her son while David knelt down one more time with the honey badger. Protect them, boy. Like you protected Tommy, can you do that? Brutus made his fighting sound, the one that meant he understood danger and was ready for it. David nodded, trying not to show how terrified he was. They were asking an animal to go into hell. But that animal had proven in the past that hell held no fear for him. The team split up. Captain Reed led the main force into the station. They fought through automated defenses that the Skrell had reprogrammed. Energy weapons fire lit up the corridors. The dogs moved ahead of the humans, their superior senses alerting them to ambushes. When 3 Skrell warriors dropped from ceiling vents, Atlas attacked before they could fire their weapons. The dogs' jaws crushed through their exoskeletons like they were made of paper. The other team saw it through their communication links, saw a dog fighting creatures twice his size and winning. It gave them courage. If Atlas could do that, they could fight too. Meanwhile, the tunnel team found an entrance to the Skrell burrows. The opening was barely large enough for a human to crawl through. David went first, followed by Dr. Foster, then the 2 miners. Atlas squeezed through behind them. And Brutus, smallest of all, moved with them like he was born for this environment. The tunnels were dark and close and terrifying. They could hear clicking sounds all around them. The Skrell communicating, coordinating, hunting. The team moved slowly, trying not to make noise. But stealth was not the plan. Chaos was the plan. When they found a larger chamber where several tunnels met, Dr. Foster set the first explosive charge. It was small, just enough to collapse part of the tunnel network. The real weapon was noise and confusion. They set 3 more charges in quick succession. Then they triggered them all. The explosions rocked through the tunnels. Skrell came running from every direction, responding to the threat. They found humans with guns waiting for them, found a dog that fought with savage efficiency, found a honey badger that moved through their tunnels like a demon, attacking anything that moved. Brutus was in his element. The tight spaces did not slow him. The darkness did not blind him. His claws dug into Skrell carapaces. His teeth found joints and weak points. The insects tried to swarm him, but he was too fast, too fierce, too absolutely committed to the fight. Above them, Captain Reed's team reached the survivors. Dr. Korth and the other researchers were exhausted but alive. They included Quillians, Methrans, Peltharians, and 3 other species. When they saw humans had come to save them, several broke down in tears. The evacuation route is clear, Reed reported. Move now. We will cover you. The survivors ran. The humans formed a rear guard, fighting off Skrell that tried to pursue. The working dogs guarded the flanks. Slowly, carefully, they made their way back toward the surface. In the tunnels below, the strike team was running out of time. More Skrell were coming. Too many to fight. David made the call. Pull back. We have done what we can. They retreated through the tunnels they had memorized. Atlas led the way, his nose finding the path even in the darkness. But the Skrell were right behind them. David could hear their clicking getting louder, closer. They were not going to make it. Then Brutus stopped running. The honey badger turned and faced the pursuing Skrell. David tried to grab him, but Brutus dodged and ran back toward the enemy. No, David yelled. Brutus, come back. The honey badger ignored him. Brutus charged into the mass of pursuing Skrell and disappeared into the chaos. The sounds of fighting echoed through the tunnels. David wanted to go back for him, but Dr. Foster pulled him forward. "We have to keep moving. Trust him." They made it out of the tunnels, made it back to the surface. The survivors were being loaded onto the shuttles. Atlas was with them, bloodied but alive. The horses had helped carry injured researchers across rough terrain. Everything was working. Everyone was accounted for except one. Where is Brutus? Tommy screamed the question as soon as he saw his father. "Dad, where is Brutus?" David's face said everything. Laura grabbed Tommy as he tried to run toward the tunnel entrance. The boy fought against her grip, sobbing. He went back. "We have to get him. We have to." Captain Reed made the hardest decision of her life. "We cannot wait. The Skrell will be here any moment. If we stay, we all die." "No," Tommy cried. "We cannot leave him, please." David knelt down and held his son. "Brutus saved us. He gave us time to escape. He's a hero, Tommy. Remember him as a hero." The shuttles began to lift off. Tommy pressed his face against the window, staring down at the asteroid. At the tunnel entrance where Brutus had disappeared, the boy's heart was breaking. Around him, the rescued researchers sat in shocked silence. They had been saved by humans and their animals. Saved by creatures they did not understand, fighting battles that should have been impossible. Dr. Korth moved carefully through the crowded shuttle until he reached Tommy. The Peltharian researcher looked down at the crying child. "Your companion fought for us. For people he did not know. For species not his own. That is courage beyond measure. We will remember him. The galaxy will remember him." Tommy could not speak through his tears. The shuttles cleared the asteroid's gravity field and prepared to jump to faster than light speed. In the last moment before they jumped, sensors picked up movement on the asteroid's surface, something small emerging from the tunnel entrance. "Wait!" Lieutenant Harris shouted. "Something is coming out." The pilot held the jump sequence. They watched the sensors, watched as a small figure dragged itself across the rocky surface. It was moving slowly, leaving a trail behind it. "Hurt but alive." "Brutus," Tommy whispered. Then louder, "Brutus!" Captain Reed made another decision. "Take us back, now." The shuttle swung around and dropped back toward the surface. They landed hard and fast. The airlock opened. David ran out in his environment suit, crossing the distance to the honey badger in seconds. He scooped up Brutus carefully. The animal was covered in wounds, missing patches of fur, bleeding from a dozen cuts, but his eyes were open and aware. David ran back to the shuttle. They sealed the airlock and launched immediately. This time they did not wait. The jump to faster than light speed felt like being pulled apart and put back together. When they emerged in safe space, Tommy was already in the medical section with Brutus. Dr. Foster worked quickly. The honey badger's injuries were severe but not fatal. The thick skin that protected him from bee stings and snake bites had saved him from the worst of the Skrell attacks. His natural toughness, the same trait that let his species survive in the wild, kept him alive when he should have died, but he would need surgery and time to heal. "Will he be okay?" Tommy asked, holding Brutus's paw gently. "He will be fine," Dr. Foster promised. "He is the toughest patient I have ever treated. He just needs rest." News of the rescue spread across the coalition faster than the shuttles could travel. Humans had responded to a distress call when no one else could. They had saved 47 lives from 6 different species. And they had done it with a combination of human courage and animal assistance that the galaxy still struggled to comprehend. When the shuttles returned to Virtus 7, they were met by a crowd of colonists and a delegation of coalition officials. Ambassador Vorin was there, Professor Wenthus was there, and Grath was there, the massive Methrin warrior who had become an unexpected friend to humanity. Captain Reed gave her report to the officials. She explained what happened, how the dogs detected dangers, how the horses helped evacuate injured researchers, how one honey badger held off pursuing Skrell long enough for everyone else to escape, how Atlas fought beside human soldiers like he had trained for this his entire life. Ambassador Vorin listened to everything. Then he did something remarkable. He knelt down next to the medical stretcher where Brutus was resting. The honey badger looked at him with drowsy eyes, still recovering from the surgery. "Small warrior," Vorin said softly, "you have taught us something important. Courage is not about size or strength. It is about heart. You have more heart than most beings will ever know." He stood and addressed Captain Reed. The Coalition Council has asked me to convey their gratitude. Your actions today have saved lives and prevented the Skrell from gaining valuable research. But more than that, you have shown us what humanity means when they speak of bonds between species. We understand now. We truly understand. Professor Wenthus added, the Human-Animal Cooperation Research Institute will be expanded. We want to learn everything we can from you. How to build these partnerships. How to create these bonds. The galaxy has been missing something fundamental, and you have shown us what it is. Grath approached Tommy, who was sitting next to Brutus's stretcher. The big warrior looked at the small boy and the injured honey badger. Your friend fought well today. He has earned the respect of warriors across the galaxy. When he heals, I would like to present him with the Methrin Medal of Valor. It has never been given to a non-sentient being before, but if anyone has earned it, he has. Tommy smiled through his exhaustion. Brutus does not need medals. He just needs to come home. Over the following weeks, the story of the rescue became legendary. It was told on every coalition world. Children of a dozen species learned about the human captain who risked everything to save strangers, about the dogs who fought beside soldiers, about the horses who carried wounded researchers to safety, and especially about the honey badger who stood alone against the Skrell horde so others could escape. Artists created images of Brutus standing at the tunnel entrance, small but defiant. Poets wrote verses about courage that transcended species. Philosophers debated what it meant that an animal would sacrifice itself for beings it had never met. And slowly, very slowly, the galaxy began to change how it thought about the relationship between intelligence and instinct, between sentience and loyalty, between civilization and nature. Other species began to wonder if they had been missing something, if their cold efficiency and logical approaches had cost them something valuable. Some began to study Earth animals more carefully. A few even requested permission to adopt companion animals of their own, wanting to experience these bonds that humans spoke of so passionately. 1 year after the rescue at Research Station Omega-9, Captain Reed stood on a newly constructed human colony world. It was not the world they originally planned to settle, but it was beautiful. Green forests that reminded them of Earth, clear water, room to grow. The 300 survivors of the Westward Dawn had been joined by 5,000 more humans who wanted to be part of the great adventure among the stars. Tommy, now 7 years old, ran through the settlement with Brutus at his side. The honey badger had healed completely, though he still bore scars from the Skrell tunnels. He wore a small badge on his collar now, the Methrin Medal of Valor. Grath had presented it in a ceremony that was broadcast across the galaxy. Brutus had tolerated the attention with his usual stoic calm, more interested in getting back to Tommy than in any medals or ceremonies. Dr. Foster had stayed on as the colony's chief veterinarian and liaison to the Human-Animal Cooperation Research Institute. Researchers from across the coalition came to study with her, to learn about the bonds between species. She taught them that it was not about control or domination. It was about respect, about trust, about recognizing that intelligence came in many forms and all of them had value. Laura and David Reeves had both taken positions at the colony school, teaching the next generation of human children about their place in the galaxy, about their responsibilities as coalition members, about the importance of the companions who had helped humanity survive and thrive. Ambassador Vorin visited regularly, having become something close to a friend. He often said that meeting humanity had changed him, made him question assumptions he had held for his entire long life, made him realize that there were ways of being intelligent, of being civilized, of being worthy, that his species had never considered. Grath visited less often, but when he did, he always spent time with Tommy and Brutus. The massive warrior and the small honey badger had developed their own strange friendship. Grath would sit on the ground and Brutus would climb onto his lap, and they would both just be still together. Two warriors from different worlds who understood each other in ways words could never express. On this particular evening, Captain Reed sat outside her home and watched the sunset. It was different from Earth's sunset, the colors slightly wrong, the timing unfamiliar. But it was beautiful in its own way. Beside her, a gray and white cat named Duchess purred contentedly. A few houses away, she could hear Atlas barking as he played with the neighbors' children. Life had found a new rhythm here, human and animal, working together, building together, thriving together. The galaxy had been skeptical at first. Some still were. But more and more species were coming around, seeing the value in what humans offered, understanding that progress was not just about technology and logic. It was also about connection, about partnership, about love. Tommy came running up, Brutus at his heels as always. "Captain Reed, look what Brutus found." The boy held up a strange rock with crystalline formations. "Dr. Foster says it might be valuable. She says Brutus has a good eye for interesting things." Reed smiled. "He is a remarkable honey badger. But then again, he always was." "He is my best friend," Tommy said simply. "Forever." "Forever," Reed agreed, watching as boy and animal ran off to show their treasure to Tommy's parents. She thought about everything that had happened since that terrible day when the westward dawn broke apart. All the fear and loss, all the struggle and uncertainty, but also all the courage and loyalty, all the moments when beings from different worlds, different species, different ways of thinking, had chosen to stand together. A honey badger had stood guard over a child and changed the galaxy. Not through force or violence, though he had fought when needed, but through the simple demonstration that love and loyalty were universal languages, that courage came in all sizes, that the bonds between beings mattered more than the differences. The stars were coming out now, filling the alien sky with familiar patterns that somehow looked right here. Humanity had found its place among those stars. Not alone, never alone, always with their companions, always with the creatures who had walked beside them through 10,000 years of history, and would walk beside them for 10,000 more. In the distance, Tommy's laughter echoed through the settlement. Brutus's happy chittering answered it, and Captain Reed smiled, knowing that whatever challenges the future brought, humanity would face them the same way they always had. Together, human and animal, family, exactly as it should be. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Some bonds cannot be broken, some loyalties cannot be measured, and some friendships transcend every boundary that evolution or circumstance puts in their way. A honey badger had stood guard over a child, and in doing so had shown the stars what humanity really meant. Not just a species seeking new worlds to conquer, but a people who brought their friends along for the journey, who valued loyalty over logic, who understood that strength was measured not in weapons or wealth, but in the willingness to stand beside those we love, no matter the cost. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. That was their contribution to civilization. And every being who witnessed it, who learned from it, who tried to build their own version of those precious bonds, understood that the universe was richer for it. The honey badger had stood guard, and the galaxy would never be the same.